Mira wiped her hands on a rag that was already streaked with oil and grease. The small garage smelled of metal, fuel, and heat, but she liked it. It was a place where machines came to life, and every bolt, wire, and panel told a story. She glanced around at the half-repaired starships and hovercars parked in neat rows. Every day brought something new, and every day taught her something she could not learn from books or training programs. The garage's owner, Mr. Dalton, was standing near the entrance, arms crossed. His thick eyebrows were furrowed, and his eyes followed Mira with the kind of suspicion that made her feel small. She was only 16, but she had already learned more about engines and energy cores than many adult mechanics in the spaceport. Still, Mr. Dalton never let her forget that he thought she was just a girl playing with tools. "Careful with that panel," he said gruffly. "You'll ruin the wiring again." "This is a real engine, not a toy." Mira smiled faintly. "I know what I'm doing, Mr. Dalton. Don't worry about me." He snorted and turned away. Mira shook her head slightly and returned to her work, not letting his words bother her. In her mind, she focused on the small hovercar engine she was inspecting. Its hum was faint but steady. Even a machine this small could teach her something new about energy flow and heat regulation. The sound of a spaceship landing outside made Mira glance up. The garage door shook slightly as a sleek black starship rolled onto the maintenance bay. It was unlike anything she had seen before. Its surface reflected the lights of the spaceport, and a thin layer of dust suggested it had traveled a long distance. A tall figure stepped out, wearing a long coat and a helmet under one arm. The person looked around the garage, clearly uneasy about the small, old-looking place. The starship's engine had a faint blue glow, but it was dull and uneven. Mira could tell at a glance that it was dead, completely unresponsive. Even she had never tried to repair an engine like that before. "Mr. Dalton," the visitor said, their voice firm but polite, "I need this engine repaired. I have tried other garages and no one could fix it. I was told you could help." Mr. Dalton puffed up his chest and gave a small, superior smile. "Of course we can fix anything here," he said, looking at Mira. "Right, Mira? This is an easy job. Maybe you should just watch and learn." Mira felt a spark of determination. She stepped forward, studying the starship carefully. Its panels were smooth and sleek, with unusual patterns of circuitry. Something about the engine told her it had been tampered with. It was not just broken. It had been deliberately shut down. "I can try," Mira said softly. "If you want, I can take a closer look first." Mr. Dalton laughed, a low, mocking sound. "Try? This is no place for little girls to try. You can stand over there if you like and see how real mechanics work. But don't touch anything." The client looked at Mira with a mixture of curiosity and hope. "I would like her to try," they said. "I have heard about her skill. She has a good mind for machines," Mr. Dalton scowled. "You are wasting your time. Engines like this are not for children. Watch and learn, Mira. That is all you will learn here." Mira ignored him. She walked around the starship, examining every seam, every panel, every energy conduit. The engine was silent, but it was not lifeless. It had the faint rhythm of a heartbeat waiting to be woken. Mira touched one of the panels lightly, feeling the vibrations and energy currents beneath the surface. She closed her eyes for a moment and listened. "Something is strange," she said aloud. "This engine has been sabotaged. Someone did not want it to run." Mr. Dalton frowned. "Sabotage? Now you're making things up. Engines just break sometimes. You do not need to read into it." Mira ignored him again. She crouched down, inspecting the energy core that had once powered the ship. The core's surface was coated with a strange metallic alloy that shimmered slightly in the light. This alloy did not belong in normal starship engines. She had read about similar materials in old tech manuals and university archives, but she had never seen one in real life. "Where did this engine come from?" she asked the client. "I do not know," they said. "It was part of my family's fleet. It was stored for years, then suddenly stopped working when I tried to start it." "No one could fix it," Mira nodded slowly. She could feel the challenge in her hands. She had always loved challenges. Engines, machines, and energy systems were puzzles, and she had a mind built to solve them. Mr. Dalton muttered under his breath, but Mira did not hear him. She was too focused on the engine. She began to gather her tools, carefully selecting instruments that could measure energy flow, detect material compositions, and probe circuits without causing damage. Her hands moved confidently, almost as if they already knew what to do. As she worked, she explained her process quietly to herself, thinking aloud. "The energy conduits are blocked. The alloy is interfering with the flow. I need to stabilize it before reconnecting the core. If I rush, the engine could fail completely. The client watched silently, impressed by Mira's calm and methodical approach. Mr. Dalton, on the other hand, walked around nervously, muttering. He had repaired engines for decades, but he had never seen someone work with such precision at such a young age. Hours passed. Mira worked steadily, using tiny instruments to measure the energy pulses within the engine. Sparks flew occasionally, but she handled them safely. The alloy seemed almost alive, reacting to her movements and adjustments. Every time she made a correction, the engine's faint hum grew a little stronger. Finally, she stepped back and wiped her forehead. Her hands were covered in grime, but her eyes were bright with focus. "I think I have found the problem," she said. "It is more complicated than I thought, but I can fix it." Mr. Dalton could not hide his surprise. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Mira turned to him and smiled faintly. "You said I could only watch." "I am only watching my own instincts," she said, her voice calm but firm. The client nodded. "Please do what you can. I trust you." Mira took a deep breath and began the delicate process of reconnecting the energy circuits. She worked slowly, carefully, listening to every pulse and vibration. The alloy resisted her at first, shifting slightly as if testing her. But Mira did not rush. She understood that some things needed patience and attention, not brute force. As she worked, she remembered the lessons she had learned from older mechanics, from books, and from trial and error. She combined all of them in a way no one else had tried. Her mind moved faster than her hands at times, calculating the flow of energy, the balance of forces, and the alignment of components. By evening, the first faint glow appeared in the engine. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Mira smiled slightly. She had not fully fixed it yet, but she had awakened it. Mr. Dalton looked on, speechless. He had never seen an engine respond this way after so many failed attempts. Mira's calm determination and intelligence had begun to work where his years of experience could not. The client's eyes widened with excitement. "I can see it. It is alive again," they said. Mira nodded. "It is starting, but we are not finished yet. It will need more adjustments and care, but it will work." For the first time, Mr. Dalton did not speak. He watched Mira with a mixture of surprise and respect. She had shown him that skill, intelligence, and patience could overcome doubt and underestimation. As the sun set over the spaceport, Mira stepped back from the engine, satisfied for the moment. She knew the next steps would be harder, but she was ready. The challenge had arrived, and she was ready to meet it head-on. The small garage felt alive, filled with energy, hope, and possibility. Mira had begun her journey to revive the dead engine, and already the impossible was starting to seem possible. The first glow of the engine had faded into a faint hum that resonated through the garage. Mira leaned over the starship's power core, her eyes sharp and her mind racing. She could feel the engine's pulse, irregular but persistent. It was almost like listening to a heartbeat, weak but stubborn. She knew that awakening it fully would take more than just reconnecting the circuits. She needed to understand the sabotage. Mira ran her fingers along the surface of the strange metallic alloy that coated the engine's core. It was smooth and cold, almost alive in its resistance. She remembered reading about alien alloys that interfered with normal energy flow. They were rare, difficult to detect, and even more difficult to work with. Most mechanics avoided them entirely, but Mira felt a spark of excitement. This was her kind of challenge. "Mr. Dalton," she said without looking up, "this engine was deliberately shut down. Someone wanted it dead. The alloy is not natural to this ship." Mr. Dalton grunted, standing nearby with his arms crossed. He had been watching her work in silence, clearly struggling to accept that a 16-year-old girl could see something he had missed. "Deliberate or not, it is still broken. You cannot fix it if it is poisoned like that." Mira ignored his skepticism. She moved a small probe along the energy conduits, measuring the flow. Her eyes flicked over the readings as they shifted with the alloy's resistance. She whispered to herself, "It is trying to fight me, but I can guide it. I just need to stabilize it first." The client, still standing nearby, looked at Mira with curiosity and hope. "You are sure you can do this?" they asked softly. Mira nodded without turning. "I will need time and focus. If I rush, I could make it worse. But I believe it can be fixed," Mr. Dalton scoffed. "Time? You think this is a game? Engines like this do not forgive mistakes. One wrong move and you will ruin it forever." Mira looked at him calmly. I understand the risk. That is why I am careful. She turned back to the engine and began a detailed analysis. Her hands moved quickly but precisely, opening small panels and using instruments that measured energy resonance and material density. The readings confirmed her suspicion. The alloy was blocking the energy conduits, causing the engine to shut down completely. What kind of alloy is this? The client asked. Mira studied the metallic coating carefully. It is rare. I have read about it in old archives. It is designed to interfere with energy flow, to stop engines from functioning. Whoever did this wanted the ship grounded permanently. Mr. Dalton muttered under his breath. Impossible. No one uses something like that here. Mira ignored him. She focused on the problem at hand. She carefully removed a small panel near the core, revealing the intricate network of conduits beneath. Sparks flickered faintly and a low vibration ran through the engine. She reached into the conduits with a tiny stabilization device she had built herself. This is delicate work, she said softly. I need to balance the energy carefully. If I push too much, it will overload. Too little, and it will stay dead. Hours passed as Mira worked. She tested each conduit, adjusted the flow, and observed how the alloy reacted. The engine seemed almost alive, resisting her adjustments but also responding to her skill. Slowly, she began to see patterns in the interference like a hidden rhythm beneath the chaos. The client watched in awe. I cannot believe she sees that, they whispered to themselves. I would never have noticed. Mr. Dalton's face was pale. He had worked with engines for decades, but he had never encountered someone who could read an engine like Mira. He felt a strange mix of fear and respect. He knew she was doing something extraordinary, even if he could not fully understand it. Mira paused for a moment and closed her eyes, listening to the hum of the engine. It was faint, irregular, but it was there. She could feel the energy fighting against the alloy trying to flow. She smiled faintly. I see it now. It is like a puzzle. If I guide it carefully, it will come back to life. She adjusted the stabilization device and inserted a tiny probe into the energy conduit. Sparks flew, but they were controlled like fireflies dancing in the dark. Mira's hands moved quickly, guided by intuition and experience. Slowly, the engine's hum grew stronger, more consistent. Mr. Dalton muttered, unable to contain his astonishment. How is she doing this? He whispered to himself. Mira spoke aloud, her voice calm but determined. The key is balance. The alloy is trying to dominate the flow, but it can be guided. I need to synchronize the energy with its natural rhythm. She worked tirelessly, her mind calculating energy patterns, material properties, and circuit alignment simultaneously. The engine responded, glowing faintly with energy as the conduits began to flow properly. Mira adjusted the flow again, fine-tuning every detail. The client took a step forward. It is glowing. She is making it work. Mira nodded, not taking her eyes off the engine. It is responding, but we are not done yet. The alloy is stubborn. One wrong move and the engine could shut down again. I need to continue carefully. Mr. Dalton's jaw tightened. He had never seen such skill and focus. For a moment, he felt a pang of regret for ever doubting her. He knew she was proving something far beyond what he had expected. As the hours passed, Mira's careful adjustments began to stabilize the engine. The hum grew stronger and more even. Sparks of blue energy flickered across the surface of the alloy, but they were controlled and steady. Mira's hands moved with precision, reconnecting conduits and adjusting energy flow. Finally, she stepped back and examined her work. The engine hummed steadily, its energy flowing smoothly. Mira smiled faintly. It is starting to respond properly. The alloy is still there, but it is guided. I can revive it fully with more work. The client's eyes shone with excitement. I cannot believe it. She is incredible. Mr. Dalton, still standing nearby, shook his head slowly. He could not deny what he had seen. Mira had discovered the sabotage, understood the alien alloy, and found a way to guide the engine's energy. She had done what he and other mechanics could not. Mira turned to him calmly. You said I could only watch. I am watching the engine, learning its behavior, and guiding it. That is how it works. Mr. Dalton swallowed hard. He had no words. He had seen his own experience challenged by someone young, but he could not ignore the truth. Mira had skill, intuition, and intelligence that surpassed years of traditional training. The client stepped closer to Mira. Do you think it can be fully revived? Mira nodded. Yes, but it will take time and careful adjustments. I have seen the pattern. If I continue, it will be ready to start again. It will be stronger than before because we understand it now. Mr. Dalton finally spoke, his voice quiet and hesitant. I underestimated you. You are doing something I cannot explain, but I see it working. Mira smiled faintly, not out of pride, but because she knew her work was meaningful. She returned to the engine, adjusting the final conduits and observing the energy flow. The alloy shimmered under her touch, but it no longer resisted violently. It was responding to her guidance. As the night fell over the spaceport, the garage glowed with the energy of the awakening engine. Mira worked tirelessly, moving from one panel to another, ensuring that every circuit, conduit, and connection was perfect. She spoke softly to the engine, almost as if coaxing it to life. The client watched in silence, marveling at the skill and patience Mira displayed. Mr. Dalton remained nearby, now quiet, observing the work that he could not fully comprehend. He felt a mix of pride and humility, knowing that this young girl had proven herself in ways he had never imagined. Finally, Mira stepped back and wiped her hands. The engine hummed steadily, a soft blue glow pulsing from its core. Mira smiled faintly, satisfied for the moment. She had discovered the sabotage, understood the alien alloy, and guided the energy back to stability. The next step would be more challenging, reviving the engine fully and testing it under real power. For the first time, Mr. Dalton did not mock her. He simply watched, humbled by the realization that Mira's talent was extraordinary. She had shown him that determination, intelligence, and careful observation could overcome obstacles that seemed impossible. Mira looked at the client and nodded. It is ready for the next step. We have guided the energy, stabilized the alloy, and discovered the problem. Now we can bring it back to full life. The client's eyes sparkled with hope. I knew you were the right person. Thank you, Mira. Mira smiled faintly, turning her attention back to the engine. The real challenge was just beginning, but she was ready. The dead engine had started to respond, and soon it would roar to life again. She felt a surge of determination, knowing that she could meet this challenge head-on. The garage, once quiet and ordinary, now felt alive. Sparks flickered, energy pulsed, and every machine seemed to hum in anticipation. Mira had begun the process of revival, and already the impossible was starting to feel achievable. The soft hum of the engine had grown into a steady rhythm, almost like the heartbeat of a living machine. Mira leaned over the control panel, her eyes scanning the complex patterns of energy flowing through the conduits. The alien alloy still shimmered faintly, but it no longer resisted violently. It was responding to her guidance, reacting to the careful adjustments she had made. She ran her fingers along a small, sensitive energy probe, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath her touch. It is almost there, she whispered to herself. Just a little more and it will awaken fully. Mr. Dalton hovered nearby, watching with a mixture of disbelief and fascination. He had repaired countless engines in his life, but he had never seen someone handle one like this. Mira's movements were precise, careful, and almost instinctive. Every adjustment she made caused the engine to respond immediately, the hum growing stronger and more even. The client, standing quietly in the corner, could hardly contain their excitement. She is amazing, they said softly. I have never seen anyone work like this before. Mira nodded, her focus unbroken. She adjusted a small dial on the probe, measuring the flow of energy through the core. Sparks flickered, but they were controlled and steady. The engine seemed almost alive, pulsating with a rhythm that matched Mira's own careful adjustments. Careful, she muttered, watching the readouts. One wrong move and it could shut down completely. But I know the pattern now. I can guide it through. Hours passed as Mira continued her work. She tested each conduit, adjusted energy flows, and monitored the behavior of the alloy. It was stubborn at times, resisting her adjustments and forcing her to rethink her strategy. But Mira remained calm. She had learned long ago that patience and observation were more powerful than brute force. Mr. Dalton could not hide his growing admiration. He had always believed experience alone was enough to master engines, but Mira was proving him wrong. She was combining intelligence, intuition, and creativity in a way that he had never seen. Finally, Mira smiled faintly. She had discovered a method to synchronize the engine's energy with the alloy's resistance. It was a delicate balance, but if she executed it correctly, the engine would awaken fully. She took a deep breath and began the process. Her hands moved quickly but carefully, connecting conduits and guiding the energy flow. Sparks danced across the surface of the alloy, but they were controlled, almost like a gentle storm contained within the engine. The hum of the engine grew louder, stronger, and more consistent. The blue glow from the core brightened, casting light across the garage. Mira's eyes shone with excitement. "It is working," she whispered. "The energy is flowing perfectly." Mr. Dalton's jaw tightened. He could not deny what he was seeing. The engine, which had been considered dead by every mechanic in the spaceport, was coming back to life under the hands of a teenage girl. He felt a mix of pride, humility, and disbelief. The client stepped closer, their eyes wide with amazement. "It is incredible," they said. "I did not believe it could be done, but she is making it happen." Mira nodded, her focus still on the engine. "We are not finished yet," she said. "The engine is responding, but we need to stabilize it fully and test it under real power. That will be the real challenge." She adjusted a few more controls and activated a series of test circuits. The engine responded immediately, its hum growing louder and more stable. Sparks flickered across the surface of the alloy, but they were contained and beautiful, like a controlled display of energy. Mr. Dalton muttered under his breath, unable to hide his astonishment. "How is she doing this?" he whispered. "I have never seen anything like it." Mira continued her work, carefully observing the energy patterns and making tiny adjustments. She noticed a subtle fluctuation in one of the conduits. It was small, but it could cause a problem if left unchecked. She moved quickly, reconnecting the circuit and stabilizing the flow. The engine responded immediately, its hum becoming smoother and more confident. The client's excitement grew. "It is alive," they said softly. "She has brought it back." Mira smiled faintly. "It is responding, but we need to be careful. The engine is powerful and the alloy is still delicate. One misstep and it could shut down again." Mr. Dalton nodded slowly, his respect for Mira growing with every passing moment. He realized that skill, intelligence, and intuition could surpass experience alone. Mira was proving that even the most difficult challenges could be overcome with patience and focus. As the hours passed, Mira continued to work tirelessly. She tested the energy flow in every conduit, adjusted the alignment of circuits, and monitored the behavior of the alloy. The engine seemed almost alive, responding to her guidance with increasing strength and stability. Finally, Mira stepped back and examined the engine. The hum was steady, strong, and even. The blue glow from the core was bright and consistent, casting light across the garage. Mira smiled faintly, satisfied with her progress. "It is ready," she said softly. "The engine is stabilized. Now we can test it under full power." The client's eyes shone with excitement. "I cannot believe it," they said. "She has done what no one else could." Mr. Dalton shook his head slowly, unable to find words. He had witnessed something extraordinary. Mira, a young girl he had underestimated, had revived an engine that had been considered beyond repair. She had discovered the sabotage, understood the alien alloy, and guided the energy back to life. Mira turned to him calmly. "You said I could only watch. I am watching the engine, learning its behavior and guiding it. That is how it works." Mr. Dalton finally spoke, his voice quiet and respectful. I underestimated you. You are remarkable. I have never seen anything like this in my life." Mira nodded, her focus returning to the engine. The real challenge was about to begin. She would need to start the engine under full power, navigating the surges of energy and ensuring that the alloy remained stable. It would be dangerous, but she was ready. She adjusted the controls and activated the main power sequence. The engine hummed louder, its energy flowing through the conduits with increasing strength. Sparks flickered and panels vibrated, but Mira's hands moved confidently, guiding the flow and stabilizing the system. The client held their breath, watching in awe. "She is doing it," they whispered. "She is making it work." Mira focused intensely, her mind calculating every adjustment, every fluctuation, and every response from the engine. She guided the energy carefully, ensuring that the alloy remained stable and that the conduits were aligned perfectly. Finally, the engine roared to life. The hum grew into a powerful vibration, and the blue glow from the core illuminated the entire garage. Mira stepped back, her hands covered in grime but steady, her eyes shining with triumph. The client's excitement was palpable. "It works. She has revived it completely." Mr. Dalton stood silently, unable to contain his amazement. He had never seen an engine respond like this, and he knew that Mira had achieved something extraordinary. He felt a mixture of pride, humility, and regret for ever doubting her abilities. Mira smiled faintly, turning her attention to the engine. It was powerful, alive, and ready. She had discovered the sabotage, stabilized the alloy, and guided the energy back to life. The next step would be the test flight, but for now she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The garage, once ordinary and quiet, now buzzed with energy. Sparks flickered, panels hummed, and every machine seemed to respond to the revival of the engine. Mira had made the impossible possible, proving that intelligence, skill, and determination could overcome even the most difficult challenges. She looked at Mr. Dalton and the client. "The engine is ready for testing," she said calmly. "If it holds together under full power, it will be stronger than before. We will see if it can fly." The client nodded, their eyes shining with hope. "I trust you completely, Mira. I knew you were the right person for this." Mr. Dalton, still in awe, finally spoke. "I underestimated you, and I am sorry. You have shown me that skill and determination can surpass experience alone. I have never seen anything like this in my life." Mira nodded, focusing on the engine. The breakthrough had been achieved, but the final test was still ahead. The engine was alive, humming with energy and ready to roar through the stars. Mira felt a surge of confidence and determination. She had faced the impossible, and she was ready for the next challenge. The garage was no longer just a place for repairs. It was a place of discovery, innovation, and triumph. Mira had proven herself, and the story of the revived engine was just beginning. The engine hummed steadily, its energy flowing smoothly through the conduits. Mira stepped back and studied it carefully. Every panel, wire, and circuit was stable, yet she knew this was only the beginning. Stabilizing the engine was one thing, but testing it under full power would reveal whether her calculations and adjustments could withstand real strain. She took a deep breath and began the preparations. The client looked on, their eyes wide with anticipation. "Are you sure it is ready?" they asked softly. Mira nodded. "It is ready. But this is the real test. Engines like this can be unpredictable. We must proceed carefully." Mr. Dalton, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "I would not have dared to start it under full power." "You're taking a huge risk, Mira." Mira smiled faintly. "Every breakthrough carries risk. That is how we learn. That is how we succeed." She adjusted the control panels, checking each conduit and monitoring the energy flow. The alien alloy still shimmered faintly, but it was stable and responsive. Mira's hands moved with precision, guiding the energy to its natural rhythm. The engine responded immediately, humming with power, vibrating gently as if testing its own strength. "Start the power sequence," she said to the client. The client nodded and carefully activated the main controls. The engine responded instantly, its hum growing louder and stronger. Sparks flickered across the surface, bright blue against the dark panels. The garage vibrated slightly as the engine tested its energy output. Mira's eyes narrowed in concentration. She adjusted the stabilization device she had built, guiding the energy through the conduits and keeping the alloy in check. The engine pulsed rhythmically, surging and settling in perfect harmony with her adjustments. Mr. Dalton stepped closer, unable to hide his astonishment. "I have never seen an engine respond like this. You are controlling it, guiding it. It is incredible." Mira did not respond. She was focused entirely on the engine, watching for the first signs of instability. A single miscalculation could cause a shutdown or worse, damage the engine permanently. She moved quickly, reconnecting a conduit that had started to fluctuate, and the engine responded immediately, pulsing steadily once more. The client's voice trembled with excitement. "It is holding." "The engine is stable!" Mira nodded but remained cautious. "It is stable now, but we must continue carefully. Full power will test everything: the conduits, the energy flow, and the alloy itself." She adjusted the main control panel, gradually increasing the energy output. The engine hummed louder, its vibrations filling the garage. Sparks danced across the surface of the alloy, bright and controlled, as if the engine itself were alive and responding to her guidance. Suddenly, a surge of energy rippled through the conduits. The engine pulsed violently and a shockwave rattled the garage. Mira's hands moved instantly, adjusting the stabilization device and reconnecting a critical circuit. The engine responded, calming its pulsing and returning to a steady hum. Mr. Dalton's eyes widened. That was close. One wrong move and it could have shut down completely. Mira did not speak. She was already observing the engine for the next fluctuation. anticipating the movements of the alloy and the energy conduits. The engine was powerful, almost unpredictable, but she had learned its rhythm. She guided it with careful precision, her hands moving quickly and confidently. Hours passed as Mira continued the test. She increased the power in small increments, observing every reaction and making tiny adjustments. The engine responded to each change, growing stronger and more stable. The blue glow from the core brightened, casting light across the garage. Sparks flickered, but they were controlled, almost like a dance of energy contained within the engine. The client watched silently, marveling at Mira's skill. "She is amazing," they whispered. "I have never seen anyone work like this before." Mr. Dalton remained close, still amazed. He could not deny what he had witnessed. Mira had guided the engine through surges, stabilized the alien alloy, and maintained perfect control over its energy output. She had done what he had never thought possible. Finally, Mira adjusted the controls to full power. The engine roared to life, its hum growing into a powerful vibration that shook the garage. Sparks flew across the surface of the alloy, bright and controlled as the engine pulsed with energy. Mira's hands moved with precision, guiding the energy flow and ensuring that the conduits remained aligned perfectly. The client's eyes shone with excitement. "It is incredible. She has brought it back completely." Mr. Dalton nodded slowly, his respect for Mira evident. "I underestimated you. You have done what no one else could." "This is extraordinary." Mira smiled faintly, her focus still on the engine. "It is working perfectly now. The alloy is stable, the conduits are aligned, and the energy flow is steady. The next step is the test flight." The client nodded, their excitement barely contained. "I trust you completely, Mira. You have proven yourself beyond doubt." Mira carefully disconnected the stabilization device, observing how the engine responded. It remained stable, humming steadily and glowing brightly. She had guided it through every challenge, from sabotage to unstable energy flows. The engine was ready for the ultimate test. Mr. Dalton finally spoke, his voice quiet and respectful. "I cannot believe what I have seen. You are remarkable. I have never seen anything like this in my life." Mira nodded, her eyes still on the engine. She knew the final test would be difficult. Starting the engine under full power in the air, guiding it through takeoff and initial flight would be the true measure of her success. But she was ready. She had faced impossible challenges before and had overcome them with skill, patience, and intelligence. She adjusted the final control panel and signaled the client to proceed. "Start the flight sequence," she said calmly. The client nodded and activated the controls. The engine responded immediately, its hum growing louder and more powerful. Sparks danced across the surface, bright blue against the dark panels. The garage vibrated slightly as the engine tested its power output. Mira's hands moved quickly, guiding the energy through the conduits and ensuring that the alloy remained stable. The engine pulsed with energy, surging and settling in perfect harmony with her adjustments. Suddenly, a larger surge of energy rippled through the system. The engine pulsed violently and the garage shook. Mira moved instantly, adjusting the stabilization device and reconnecting critical circuits. The engine responded, calming its pulse and returning to a steady hum. Mr. Dalton's eyes widened. That was intense. One wrong move and it could have been disaster. Mira did not speak. She was already observing the engine for the next fluctuation, anticipating the energy surges and responding quickly. The engine was powerful, almost alive, but she had learned its rhythm. She guided it carefully, ensuring stability at every step. The engine hummed steadily, its vibrations filling the garage. Mira increased the power gradually, observing each change and making adjustments as needed. Sparks flickered, but they were controlled, contained within the engine. The blue glow of the core was bright and steady, reflecting Mira's careful guidance. Hours passed and Mira continued the test. She pushed the engine to higher power levels, observing how the energy conduits and the alloy responded. Each adjustment brought the engine closer to perfect stability. The hum grew stronger, louder, and more confident. Finally, Mira stepped back, her hands covered in grime but steady, her eyes shining with satisfaction. The engine hummed perfectly, its energy flowing smoothly and its alloy stable. The test under full power had been successful. The client clapped their hands, excitement written across their face. She did it. The engine is fully revived and stable under full power. Mr. Dalton shook his head, unable to contain his amazement. "I underestimated you completely. You have done what no one else could, and you have done it flawlessly." Mira smiled faintly. The engine is ready for the next stage, the flight test. It is stable, powerful, and responsive. It can now take to the skies safely. The garage felt alive, filled with energy, triumph, and possibility. Mira had guided the engine through every challenge, from sabotage to unstable energy flows, and proved her skill, patience, and intelligence. She had achieved the breakthrough, and the final step, the test flight, was within reach. For the first time, Mr. Dalton looked at Mira with genuine respect. He had doubted her, mocked her, and underestimated her abilities. Now he understood that skill, intelligence, and determination could surpass age and experience. Mira had shown him what true talent looked like, and he could no longer deny it. Mira turned back to the engine, her focus unwavering. The test had been successful, but the real challenge, the flight, was still ahead. She felt a surge of confidence and determination. She had revived the dead engine, guided it through every obstacle, and proven herself capable of extraordinary feats. The story of the revived engine was far from over. The final chapter, the flight into the stars, was waiting, and Mira was ready to face it. The engine hummed steadily, glowing with a deep blue energy that filled the garage with light. Mira stood in front of it, her hands poised over the control panel, her mind sharp and focused. She had guided the engine through sabotage, stabilized the alien alloy, and tested it under full power. Now came the final and most daring challenge, the flight. The client's eyes were wide with anticipation. "Are you sure it is ready to fly?" they asked. Mira nodded. "Yes, the engine is stable, powerful, and responsive. If everything goes according to plan, it will fly smoothly, but I must stay focused. There is no margin for error." Mr. Dalton, who had been watching silently, finally stepped forward. His voice was quiet but filled with respect. "I underestimated you, Mira. I cannot deny it. You have done what I thought was impossible. I was wrong to doubt you." Mira smiled faintly. "Thank you, Mr. Dalton, but the test is not over yet. The flight will prove everything." She climbed into the starship's cockpit, feeling the hum of the engine beneath her. The controls were complex, but she had studied every panel and conduit carefully. She could feel the energy flowing smoothly, responding to every subtle adjustment she made. The ship vibrated slightly, eager to move, and Mira felt a thrill of excitement. "Ready for launch," she said to the client, who nodded. Mira activated the pre-flight systems. The engine roared to life, vibrating with controlled power. Sparks flickered across the alloy surface, contained and bright. The ship's panels glowed softly, reflecting the careful guidance Mira had given the engine. She took a deep breath and began the takeoff sequence. The ship lifted smoothly from the garage floor, guided by the revived engine. It hovered for a moment, stable and precise, before ascending into the air. Mira adjusted the energy conduits carefully, keeping the flow balanced as the ship gained altitude. The blue glow of the engine reflected across the cockpit, pulsating steadily. Mr. Dalton and the client watched from below, their eyes wide with amazement. "She is doing it," the client whispered. "The ship is flying perfectly." Mr. Dalton shook his head slowly. "I cannot believe it. She has controlled it flawlessly. I never imagined this was possible." As the ship climbed higher, Mira tested the engine's limits. She increased the power gradually, feeling the energy surge through the conduits. Sparks danced across the alloy, bright and contained. The ship responded instantly to her adjustments, every movement precise and smooth. Suddenly, a fluctuation appeared in one of the conduits. The engine pulsed violently and the ship rocked slightly. Mira's hands moved instantly, reconnecting the circuit and stabilizing the flow. The engine responded immediately, calming its pulse and returning to a steady hum. The client's voice trembled with excitement. "She handled that perfectly. I thought the engine would fail." Mira's eyes narrowed in concentration. She adjusted the controls, guiding the energy carefully through the conduits. The alloy shimmered under her hands, but it remained stable. The engine's hum grew stronger, more confident, and the ship soared higher into the sky. Mr. Dalton stood silently, awed by her skill. He had doubted her abilities, mocked her talent, and underestimated her determination. Now he saw the truth. Mira was extraordinary. She had revived a dead engine, stabilized an alien alloy, and guided a powerful starship through flight with precision and intelligence. Hours passed as Mira continued the flight test. She navigated the ship through complex maneuvers, testing the engine's responsiveness and stability. Every adjustment she made was calculated, careful, and precise. The blue glow of the engine pulsed steadily, reflecting the harmony she had achieved between energy, alloy, and machinery. The client watched silently, marveling at Mira's focus and skill. "She is remarkable," they whispered. "I have never seen anyone handle an engine like this. She is a genius." Mira smiled faintly, though she did not let herself relax. She knew the final challenge was to return the ship safely. The engine was stable, powerful, and responsive, but she had to land without causing damage or triggering any failures. She guided the ship back toward the garage, carefully controlling its descent. The engine hummed steadily, its energy flowing smoothly through the conduits. Sparks flickered faintly but remained contained, reflecting the perfect balance she had achieved. As the ship touched the garage floor, Mira gently reduced the engine power. The vibration subsided, the blue glow dimmed slightly, and the engine came to a controlled idle. She exhaled slowly, her hands steady but tired. The flight had been a complete success. The client clapped their hands, excitement and relief evident. "You did it!" "The engine is fully revived and the ship flew perfectly." Mr. Dalton approached Mira slowly, his expression a mixture of humility and admiration. "I owe you an apology, Mira. I doubted you, mocked you, and underestimated your skill." "I was wrong." "You have proven yourself beyond anything I could imagine." Mira nodded calmly. "Thank you, Mr. Dalton. I do not need praise. The engine works and the ship is safe. That is what matters." The client stepped forward, shaking Mira's hand. "You have done something extraordinary. You revived an engine no one else could fix, and you flew it perfectly. The spaceport will remember this for a long time." Mira smiled faintly, feeling a quiet sense of pride. She had faced impossible challenges, solved problems no one else could, and proven that intelligence, skill, and determination could overcome doubt and underestimation. Mr. Dalton placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice filled with respect. "Mira, you have earned my trust and my admiration. From this day forward, you will lead this garage. I want you to teach others what you know. You are a true mechanic and a remarkable one at that." Mira's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected this, but she nodded with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Dalton. I will do my best." The client smiled. "I will be telling everyone about this. You have revived not just an engine, but the hope that young people can achieve extraordinary things." Mira looked around the garage, at the machines, the glowing engine, and the place that had become a center of discovery and triumph. She felt a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Her journey had not been easy, but she had faced every challenge with determination, intelligence, and focus. Mr. Dalton watched her with a mixture of pride and humility. He had learned a valuable lesson. Talent and skill could come from anywhere, and underestimating someone because of age or appearance was a mistake. Mira had shown him what true talent looked like, and he could no longer doubt her abilities. The client prepared to leave, the revived starship ready for its next journey. "Thank you, Mira," they said sincerely. "You have saved more than just this ship. You have inspired everyone who sees what you can do." Mira nodded, a faint smile on her face. "I am glad I could help. The engine is ready for whatever comes next." As the ship lifted off into the sky, Mr. Dalton spoke quietly. "Mira, I hope you understand how remarkable you are. I will never doubt your abilities again." Mira smiled faintly, feeling the truth of his words. "I understand, Mr. Dalton. Thank you." The garage felt alive with energy, achievement, and possibility. Machines hummed, sparks danced, and the knowledge that a young mechanic had achieved something extraordinary filled the air. Mira had proven that age, size, or appearance did not determine skill. Intelligence, determination, and patience could overcome any obstacle. Word of Mira's achievement spread quickly throughout the spaceport. Other young mechanics came to see the engine, to learn from her and to be inspired by her determination. She had become a symbol of hope and excellence, proving that talent and courage could defy expectations. Mr. Dalton worked alongside her now, learning from her insight and guidance. The small garage had transformed into a center of innovation and learning. Mira had not just revived an engine, she had changed the way people saw talent, skill, and determination. As the sun set over the spaceport, Mira stood in front of the engine, her hands resting lightly on the controls. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The challenge had been immense, the journey difficult, but she had succeeded. She had revived the dead engine, guided a powerful starship through flight, and earned the respect and admiration of those who had doubted her. The story of Mira and the revived engine would be remembered for a long time. It was a story of intelligence, determination, and courage. It was proof that the impossible could be achieved with skill, patience, and focus. Mira smiled faintly, looking out at the horizon. New challenges would come, but she was ready. She had proven herself, and she knew that there was nothing she could not face with determination and intelligence. Mr. Dalton stood beside her, nodding in quiet respect. "You have changed my life, Mira, and the lives of everyone who sees what you can do." Mira nodded. "We all have the power to achieve extraordinary things if we try and never give up." The garage was alive with energy, hope, and possibility. Mira had faced impossible odds, revived a dead engine, and proven that skill and intelligence could overcome doubt. The future was bright, and she was ready to meet it.